All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Jacob Kaufman. I'm the Nerd on the Street, and welcome to the Nerd on the Street 7-year anniversary live stream. Just making sure everything is connected up right now. We've got our chat rooms all pulled up here. We got our nerdonthestreet.com chat. We've got our YouTube chat, because I know we'll have some YouTube viewers. We've got our Twitch chat, Smashcast chat. The Mixer chat goes into the Nerd on the Street chat room now. So that one doesn't need to be separate anymore. So we'll give everyone a couple minutes to shuffle in, and feel free to say hello to anyone who is watching so that I know I'm not just streaming to the abyss here. All right, well, don't have anybody saying hello yet, but we'll go ahead and start off the stream with some statistics. Let me pull up YouTube's analytics here, because those are always fun to look at. So yeah, Nerd on the Street is officially 7 years old as of June 10th, which was Monday of this week. 7 years we've been doing this. And we are still struggling to get audiences for live streams. But we're not struggling to find viewers. If I look at our YouTube analytics here, I actually can't show this on stream because it's got estimated revenue in it. Let me see if I can. I'll just delete that section of the page. So this was actually a terrible month for us. Well, I don't know about terrible, but it was a bad month. We were down 25% views just this month. You can see in the last 28 days we've had 40.5 thousand views. We've gained 162 subscribers. All right, I'm being told that my voice sounds really low, so let's see what's going on here with our audio. Awesome. Testing, all right. See if this sounds a little better. There we go, okay. That should be good. Is the audio better, guys? Is that an improvement? Just had to restart the stream there. Yeah, so a lot of the live streams that we do here at Nerd on the Street don't have to do with technology. They have to do with like gaming and stuff that most people who watch the tech channel don't care about. But one thing that's nice about live streams like the Friday night hangout that we did, the casual Wednesday night gaming streams that we did, those... Let me messing up our stream graphics here. All those other gaming streams and stuff that you wouldn't think matter to tech channel viewers, they do matter because they give me practice for streaming. That voice being lower thing sounded similar to when we used I'm using a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 audio interface right now. We were using one of those for Extra Life 2017. That was the one where we were outside, for those of you who remember that. And there were portions of that stream at the beginning that the voices sounded super low like that, like my voice did just a couple minutes ago. We never did figure out exactly why that happened. We suspected it had something to do with the sample rate of Pulse Audio. So you can see that's why I killed Pulse Audio just now, because I restarted it. So the voice apparently sounds normal now. I didn't change any settings on Pulse Audio, but my laptop, I've forced Pulse Audio to a certain sample rate. My desktop, I haven't done that yet, and that's what the Scarlett that I've got now is currently plugged into. So hopefully the low voice doesn't come back. If it does, let me know. Also, well, yeah, here we go. Hello. Hello to Scurvy over on the Twitch chat, and here's a link to our Discord. You can find our Discord at discord.nots.co, and you have to put that into a web browser, and it will forward you to the invite page. I don't have any bots in the Twitch chat. All right, and I'm being insulted in the Twitch chat. I'm hoping that we have some people in the YouTube chat, because those are normally more constructive than the Twitch chat, but let me just... screw it. I don't stream to Twitch enough. I don't stream anywhere enough to really know how to moderate these chat rooms properly. So we'll just continue on. So this was the last 28 days. Like I was saying, we've had 40.5 thousand views on YouTube. Most of those have come from my installing Nextcloud 15 video. That was a smart one to make. FreeNAS installation and usage was fun to make. I'm glad that's still getting plenty of views. And then Pop! OS, I really did not care about Pop! OS. I made that video because I knew it would get views. Just being honest there. And that it did get 15.5 thousand views in the last 28 days. So that worked there. Oh, and this is actually sorted by watch time over here. In terms of views, the last 48 hours, most of our views have come from installing Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. It's always the generic stuff that gets most of the views. You know, it's never the super in-depth niche stuff, because I do really in-depth projects sometimes. But yeah, no, the stuff that gets the views is always the general stuff that lots of people are searching for. So I'm gonna set YouTube Analytics to show the lifetime here. Okay, good. And it still is not showing the revenue, which I didn't want it to, so that's good. So over the lifetime, in the last 7 years of Nerd on the Street, we've gotten 2.3 million views. And you can see here, December 19th, 2018, it was underreported, which is interesting. They also had an issue September 1st, 2012. And August 20th and 23rd of 2013, YouTube was having analytics issues. But no, we've gotten 2.3 million views, 10 million minutes of watch time, and we've got about 9,000 subscribers. And I always talk about that, how we've got a ton of views, not very many subscribers, but that's okay. I'd prefer to have more subscribers, but we're getting up there. Yeah, this is the way that our views have grown over the years. And if we look at subscribers, well, yeah, these graphs aren't super easy to visualize, but looks like we've been about the same for the last 2 years. We had a dip in 2017 when I wasn't making any videos, which makes sense. And actually, I was making videos around here, but it was like rolling release and less popular stuff like that. This was probably around Proton. Yeah, when I made my video about Linux gaming with Proton using Wine compatibility layer, so you can play Windows games on Linux. That got a ton of views. And then we're hovering around, I guess, 2,000 a little under 2,000 views per day. Yeah, since 2016. 2016 was really the best year for Nerd on the Street. 2015 into 2016. We were doing a lot of great videos back then. I've been trying to work back up to that, and because I knew we were taking a dip during 2017. I knew that was going on. So looks like we've been successful in building back up to our prior numbers, looking at the graph. So that's actually nice to see. Top videos over our lifetime. Rip DVDs with VLC is still the most popular video. It's gotten over 1 million views on the one video. That's pretty neat. I've got a 1 million view video, and that video has terrible audio quality. You talking about the audio quality in this live stream, you know. This is pretty good. I'm wearing my lavalier microphone, and it's probably, I don't know, probably too loud or something because I'm still learning how to use it properly. But no, back when I made that Rip DVDs with VLC video, there was actually a comment on that video, and the comment said, "Jesus, is that a mic or a kazoo?" And you know, a lot of times when people leave derogatory comments on the videos, I remove them. But that one I actually publicly liked, just because it was a very good description of how that audio sounded. But that's my most popular video with 1 million views. It's how to rip DVDs with VLC. Second most popular video is ripping DVDs with Handbrake, with 600,000 views. And this was sort of my apology for the previous video on ripping DVDs with VLC. It hasn't been quite as popular because VLC is more popular than Handbrake. Next up, though, we had KDE Plasma 5, which was one I made in 2016. Handbrake was also in 2016. And hello to Broken Canuck, saying congrats on the anniversary. Oh, and hello to Eggplants as well. Just wanted to say hi and congrats on 7 years. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So yeah, several of these videos were from, several of these were from 2016. Like I was saying, that was the best year for us so far. So KDE Plasma 5 was iPad Mini 2 versus Galaxy Tab S2 8.0. That's an interesting one because this wasn't really a fair comparison. This was one we made in 2016 or 2015, where I got a Galaxy Tab S2 8.0, and my friend Michael Chanot, who helps me out with a lot of Nerd on the Street videos, he had an iPad Mini 2, which was a generation behind. The iPad Mini 3 came out at the same time as the Galaxy Tab S2 8.0. So yeah, that video was not a fair comparison. We had lots of people getting mad at us in the comment section for that one, but it's still gotten over 500,000 views. And then FreeNAS installation and usage from just 6 months ago or so, about 9 months ago, it's gotten 516,000 views as well. Once again, that was very fun to make. It really showed off the power of FreeNAS, so I'm glad that one's been doing well. And hello to Brett Sloreth in the YouTube chat as well. Good to see you. Yeah, Brett was a voice actor for Displaced, which Season 3 is still in the works, by the way, for Displaced. Animation takes a freaking long time, and I have a full-time job now, so that's why it's taken so long. But good to see you around. Yeah. What other statistics do we have here to take a look at? I mean, this is the statistics for the tech channel. We can take a look just real quickly at the creative and gaming channels as well. I know this is being live streamed to the tech channel, so you guys won't care too much about it. But since Brett brought up the Displaced reference there, let's see how many views Displaced has gotten. Go to analytics here. And I basically don't even need to remove the estimated revenue from this channel because it's about non-existent. But here is the lifetime statistics for the NOTS creative channel, which hasn't been around for quite as long. Well, it looks like I made it in October 2012, so it will be turning 7 years old later this year as well. Episode 1 of Displaced has gotten 991 views, and that's the most popular video on the creative channel. Yeah, and then let's take a look at our gaming channel as well, which is where we post the Extra Life outtakes. But yeah, 7 years. It's getting up there in time.
I'm interested, anyone in the YouTube chat, I always like to hear how people have discovered Nerd on the Street, because a lot of people find our videos in YouTube searches, but then they don't stick around, they don't subscribe, they don't go to live streams, they just find one video, watch it, and leave. That's how we've ended up with over 2 million views, but less than 10,000 subscribers. So for those of you who are in the YouTube chat, how did you guys find us? What video was the first one that you found? Let us know in the chat, because I enjoy reading that stuff. The gaming channel, which Brett made some videos for back in the day. Oh, it looks like it had a bit of a, well, relative resurgence just this year. The most popular video on the gaming channel has been Brett's How to Win Blackjack video, which has gotten 25,000 views. Nice. That dwarfs all the other videos on this channel. So both Brett and myself have made a ton of gaming videos for the gaming channel, but the most popular one is How to Win Blackjack. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, Brett found Nerd on the Street IRL when I asked him to help make videos with me. Oh, Broken Canuck was recommended from another channel. He thinks it was Jupiter Broadcasting. Cool. That's really interesting. Yeah, I was watching a lot of Jupiter Broadcasting a couple of years ago. Since they've stopped doing the Linux Action Show, I have basically stopped watching them at this point. I still pop in and watch an episode of Linux Action News every now and then, but yeah, I was a big fan of the Linux Action Show. I tried to make a similar show called Rolling Release, and it's on hiatus right now, has been for about a year now, but I'd like to pick it back up eventually. So yeah, we've got a few viewers here at least. I think we will go ahead and in a minute or two, we'll play our Nerd on the Street 7-year montage. Let me see how many participants we've got in our chat rooms. Yeah, not a ton, but I don't know how many more we're gonna get. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll play that montage video. So, let's see here, my list of topics to talk about. My video editor of choice has changed recently. I have stopped using Kdenlive, which may shock some of you. Eggplant found me on Reddit. Somebody recommended me on Reddit. Then YouTube, in its magic, showed a video of mine on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube recommendations are always good. I don't like everything that Google does with analytics, but in some cases it does benefit me, such as when they recommend my videos to other people. Yeah, for years now, I've been using a video editor called Kdenlive. Some people ask me what I use to edit my videos. That's what it's been for years, since at least like 2014 and on has been just Kdenlive. Before that, I was using a bunch of different Linux video editors, but recently Kdenlive released a new refactored version, which I made a video about, called Kdenlive 19.04, and that one got about 3,000 views. But I made a video about that, and in the video I kind of talked about how it was a little bit slower than the previous version. What I found after I made that video is that a lot of the videos that I make are very long, like 45 minutes plus. And Kdenlive, the new version, the new refactored version, the longer the video is that you're cutting, the slower the interface is. So in that video, the Kdenlive 19.04 release video that I made, I was using like a 10-minute video and it was a little bit slow. When I drag in a 45-minute clip for one of my typical videos into Kdenlive 19.04, it's unusable. It's just absolutely unusable. So I've actually switched to a new video editor called Olive. Yeah, and hello to Red Rabo's Workshop, Nerd Club member popping in the YouTube chat here. And yeah, I completely agree. Olive Video Editor, it's what I have switched to. I was about to talk about that. It's this brand new video editor. Now, for years, most of the good video editors on Linux have been based on the same framework called MLT. and it is pronounced melt. So Kdenlive was based on melt, and we've had some things like Shotcut and Flowblade that have tried to improve on Kdenlive or try to implement melt better than Kdenlive, but they're still based on melt. So the performance, it's still all CPU, no GPU acceleration, and like the effects and everything are using the same, basically the same backend software. It's just a different skin on top of it with a lot of the Linux video editors. And then you've got wildcards like OpenShot, which has its own rendering engine and everything, to be fair to it, but it's very primitive still. But Olive Video Editor is a relatively new editor. It is still in alpha, but I completely agree, Rob. It is absolutely an excellent video editor. I've used it for the past couple of videos I made, actually. Let's see here. So the K38, Cisco routers was when I ditched Kdenlive because Kdenlive couldn't handle what I was doing with overlaying one video. I was overlaying a webcam over a screen recording, and Kdenlive was just way too slow. So that was when I switched sort of to Olive halfway. The Fafine video, I don't remember if I tried making that one in Kdenlive or not. Symphetum, I didn't even try Kdenlive. I just used Olive. And Olive is also what I used for this year's montage, which I will play in a minute here, like I said. And the montage video every year, Nerd on the Street makes hundreds of videos. Most of them are tech. We got some other ones too. And every year the montage is getting harder and harder to make. So every year I like to make some kind of like anniversary video where I show all the cool stuff that Nerd on the Street's done. The first 4 years, it was basically the same video, just a little bit longer every year, because I would just take some music and I would put just clips of every single video that I had made, or every single tech video at least, all in a row over the music. That was what the montage was for the first 4 years. Now, eventually that started getting boring because the highlights that I was taking from each individual video was staying the same for the most part from year to year. So you'd basically be watching the 3-year montage is just the 2-year montage with different music and a little bit of extra tacked on at the end. And then the 4-year was just the same as the 3-year, but different music and a little bit more tacked on at the end. So for the 5-year anniversary, I tried to do something different where I was highlighting specifically the not technology stuff that I had done. Because the first 4 years where the montages were just the tech videos, so the 5-year I was like, let's make one with everything else. But it was only a highlight reel, it wasn't really a montage. So it was also way too long, and so it wasn't very fun to watch. Last year for the 6-year anniversary, I made a really great video that was sort of a montage, and it was the best of everything, tech, not tech. The problem with the 6-year anniversary montage was that I used non-free music. I used copyrighted music for that. I used a Jeff Williams song. So I had to mute it when I uploaded it to YouTube, which I knew going in that was what I was going to do. But of course, it's not as easy for people to watch. So this year, I made original music again for the montage, which you'll hear in a minute. And then, yeah, last year I was talking about how Kdenlive, I always had to make part of the montage, render it out, drag that back into Kdenlive as a single source clip, make the next part of the montage, render that out, drag that in as a single source clip, and kind of build on the video over time as I'm making it for the montage to keep Kdenlive from crashing. Because if you do too much in a single project file, Kdenlive just it can't handle it. It crashes. Olive, I had the opposite experience where I was able to do this year's entire montage in a single Olive video editor file. I didn't have to do any sort of baking or pre-rendering. The problem was when I went to actually render it, I ran into some issues. Project file was perfectly fine, but the rendering was the bottleneck. Before I expand on that, it'll make more sense what I'm talking about now once you see the montage. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. This is the Nerd on the Street 7-year anniversary montage. And for this year's video, just as a little bit of an intro, I wanted to do something. Once again, we've got too many videos to make a single montage for 7 whole years. Maybe I'll do a really long one for the 10-year or something, but 7 years, it would have been like a 20-minute montage if I had done every single one of the 700 plus videos I've made. So what I did this year was, earlier this year, I graduated from college. In December 2018, actually, I graduated from college. And college has been the worst 2.5 years of my life, I'll just flat out say. But I've been working full time for 6 months now. I recently moved into my own apartment. Things are starting to get better because of the work that I put in during that 2.5 years. And so a lot of times I talked earlier about how 2016 was the best year for Nerd in the Street, and I still kind of feel that it was. But on the other hand, I'm trying to also bring us back up to that point now, because we can't go back there, but we can still make some good videos. So this year's montage, I wanted to highlight everything that's happened since 2016, basically the college years of Nerd in the Street. And yeah, so there's stuff from, you'll see the intro to the video is me talking about how I'm going to graduate high school, and that was right before the 4-year anniversary. And then it's from there up until now is what this montage is. Like I said, I made the music, original music this year again, which I'm excited about. It is heavily inspired by, at least the beginning of it is heavily inspired by a song that fans of Psycho-Pass will recognize, but it divulges very quickly after the beginning. So yeah, we'll go ahead and play it. I won't keep you guys waiting too much longer. So here is the Nerd in the Street 7-year montage. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
Now, I don't make these update videos very often, so I do want to talk about the future of Nerd in the Street, because like I said, I am graduating. In the fall, I will be going to college. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know who my roommate is going to be, because I'll be living in a dorm. I don't know how many friends I'm going to make. I don't know, what my schedule's going to be like. So I'm going to keep Nerd in the Street running, and I may upload content on a regular basis. I may upload content on an irregular basis, and that really just depends on, like I said, what my schedule ends up being, what my lifestyle ends up being like when I get to college, because once again, I have no idea.
All right, so there it is, short and sweet. Let me know what you guys thought. Broken Canuck said, "Holy cow, this brings back memories." Yeah. Yeah, if you found me through Jupiter Broadcasting, seeing all those rolling release clips probably brought back some memories, because it's been a little while since we've done an episode of that. Yeah, and I always like seeing all the Extra Life stuff. And yeah, all the stuff, like I said earlier, even the stuff that's not tech videos is still important. You saw like how many live streams, gaming streams I was doing leading up to Extra Life every year. That's because I was getting things ready for Extra Life so that we don't run into snags. So yeah. Yeah, Rob says, great work aligning the beat to the clips. That is actually very difficult to do properly because music, you know, that you've got, it's timed to your time signature, which does not always line up with 30 frames per second, which is what the video is supposed to line up to. So I had to do some math first to figure out how many frames each clip was supposed to be, because it didn't divide evenly, so I had to figure out how to resolve that. And then after it was all done, then some of it still didn't match, so then I had to go back and I rendered out probably, let me show you guys the project folder for that. I did this last year too, just for comparison. So like I said, last year I had a bunch of different Kdenlive files because that was a really difficult one to make, the 6-year anniversary one. So here's the 7-year anniversary folder. So you can see I did have a couple of different Olive files. This was the first one. Olive did crash a couple of times, so we had a recovered one here. I ended up, this is the main file that has the finished product. Is called backup.ove, not really named accurately, but you can see I rendered out a ton of different times. And most of these, especially these last ones, were adjusting little frame by frame differences here and there, like, oh, this clip needs to start 2 frames earlier, 1 frame earlier to line up with the beat. And then of course we're live streaming this too, so the audio and video may not have lined up perfectly for you guys anyway. But when it gets uploaded afterwards, it'll be great. So yeah, I had a lot of fun making that. I've got a screen sharing session open with my laptop right now. I used Bitwig Studio to make the music for that. Boy, this isn't really gonna fit entirely in the frame, but yeah, Bitwig is a proprietary DAW for Linux, and I used to use Linux Multimedia Studio. The thing is, with Bitwig, it's very easy to plug in virtual instruments. And this song is called Hive, and that was actually a new one that I had purchased here. That I've been getting more into synthesizers and how they actually work, because coming from displaced music creation, I always I used a lot of orchestral sounds and you know, like classic band instruments, less electronic stuff. But it's easier to find virtual instruments that are synthesizers. My hardest thing about making music right now is not the notes and how I want them to sound, but getting the tones that I want. So I've been researching and playing around with synthesizers and how to actually make a synthesizer sound like different instruments, so that I don't have to go out and hunt and scour the internet for virtual instrument files that sound the way I want them to. I can just get one that's customizable and make it sound the way I want it to. So there was that. Oh, and then here's some fun pictures that I've got to show. So like I was saying, the only issue with Olive during that whole thing, I did the whole thing in one project, and I've got a screenshot of that right here. Here's what the project file looks like when I was done. So if we zoom in here, you can see, can I collapse this sidebar? Yeah. So you can see how many clips I had in Olive. This is the scroll bar right here. So I had a ton of clips in the Olive video editor across several different hard drives and mount points. So that was a challenge. And just organizing the clips every year is a challenge too. But this is what the timeline looked like. So all these tiny little clips, and then at the end, this is where the problem section was. Here, and particularly right here, when we had a ton of clips in the same area. So I was running into this issue where Olive, it would play back pretty much perfectly fine. A little bit laggy because I was using external hard drives and stuff, but it was playing back my project file better than Kdenlive would have, for sure. When I went to render, my computer ran out of RAM, and then Olive crashed. And I recently upgraded my computer's RAM. I added an additional 64 gigabytes, which means my total is now 96 gigabytes, because this computer had 32 when I built it on video, and then I upgraded it with 64 more a couple months back. So 96 gigabytes, and Olive was running out of RAM. Now, at first I thought maybe there's a memory leak, because there's no way a program should use that much RAM, right? And I know for a fact that if I had done this exact same thing in Kdenlive, there would not have been a RAM issue rendering-wise. Kdenlive, basically, it would crash if you did too much in one project file, but if you can get Kdenlive to do it in a project file, then you can get it to render. That's how Kdenlive worked. Olive, a little bit different. Apparently, you can do things in the project file with less resources than you can render with, because Olive was, when it was getting to that end section, here's what my system monitor looked like. So you can see RAM usage. This is 82 gigabytes out of a 94.3, starting to ramp up here. And here's the CPU of the rendering. And here you can see it's ceilinged out. And what I did to resolve this, when I figured out that it wasn't a memory leak, it actually needed that much RAM, I added a 50 gigabyte swap file on my SSD, which I'm sure is just great for it. But I ended up getting it to successfully render by doing that, because you can see it maxed out my 94 gigabytes of RAM. And it's funny, because when I built this computer, I thought about getting a 64 gig kit so that I could max it out to 128. But I was like, who would need 128 gigabytes of RAM? I'll never need that. And here we are. So, but I added the swap file, so I had a workaround. You can see it maxed that out. The swap file got up to like 15 gigabytes used, plus the 91 gigs in actual RAM. And then you could see when it's still rendering here, but it got past that part where it was 4 videos at a time. And then the RAM usage just drops way down. That's something else for later. So yeah, that was interesting to see. But Olive is definitely a very capable video editor, considering it's only been around for less than a year, I think. It's rivaling the competition fiercely. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah. And then, yeah, part of the reason why that happened at the end of the montage too, the switching from 1 video at a time to 4 videos at a time, was because writing the music also is a creative process that takes quite a bit of time. And I only gave myself a week or 2 to make that montage. So I was running out of music writing creativity, so I knew the song couldn't go on for that much longer. And so I was like, we need to speed this up, looking at the number of videos I had. So I switched it to 4 at a time. So yeah, looks like we got quite a few viewers tuning in at this point. Anyone who has questions or remarks about Nerd on the Street or anything, Linux related, feel free to pipe in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just be talking. So yeah, for year 7 specifically, probably my favorite thing that happened was Extra Life 2018. And Extra Life 2018 was definitely the best Extra Life stream that we've done every year, or done ever. I don't know how many of you guys in the chat, I know Rob tuned into Extra Life. I don't know how many other people got the chance to tune into Extra Life this year. But we knocked Extra Life out of the park for Extra Life 2018 back in November. And that wasn't just me, that was Michael Chanot, that was Helen Temporal, and that was a lot of other people putting in a lot of work for that. Extra Life was interesting this year because normally we had for the past few years, we had the same group of people every year for Extra Life. We had me, my cousin Adam, and then we had Brett and Drake and some other people. Well, we only had Drake one year, but we had the same crowd every year for Extra Life. And this year, like 90% of our crowd just dropped out of Extra Life. Looking at I've got a Rocket Chat. I made a video about Rocket Chat. We use it for planning productions like Extra Life. And if I scroll through it here and see, Drake said he didn't want to do Extra Life on August 21st, August 22nd. Leo said he didn't want to do it. We had, show you all of our private chats here. We had Mark dropping out of it September 14th. So like a couple weeks before Extra Life, we had 3 people confirmed to do it with us, and this is a big. Extra Life's a charity live stream. We're raising money for the St. Louis Children's Hospital when we do that, and it's a 24+ hour live stream for those of you who haven't tuned in, and it's always this big production, and we make it as big of a thing as possible. So the fact that we had 3 people confirmed to do it this year was very concerning leading up to the stream. But a few weeks before the stream, Helen Temporal from Rolla, Missouri, she brought in a good 5 or so more people, all from Missouri S&T, to come and do Extra Life with us. And yeah, so she brought in a ton of people. We had a couple other people join us as well, which was great. Michael and I got our tech set up down really well for Extra Life this year, so that was definitely one of my favorite things in the last year. It's going to be really hard to top for Extra Life 2019 when we do that later this year. But we'll see what we can do when we get there. We still got a few months until we have to worry about that. Let's see, what else? What other topics do I have? I don't know, I don't want to talk too much about the non-tech video stuff, because I know, once again, we're streaming this to the tech channel. I know there was a big drop-off in tech videos right when I started my job. And for those of you who don't know, I'm working full-time in a network operations center right now. I think right now my job title is technically network technician, but I'm being converted from a contractor to an actual employee in the next month or so, and my job title is going to change to network administrator, which is cool. But if I pull up our website here and I look at our tech videos, so we had a big drop off, like I said. The last 2 videos before I started that job were installing Nextcloud and installing Collabora. And actually, I managed to squeeze out the ripping and tagging CDs on Linux. January 16th, that was like a couple days before I started my new job. So yeah, I tried to get out as much content as I could, because I knew there was going to be a gap, and there was about a month before I posted any more tech videos. And you know, there's going to be times when I'm busy and I can't get tech videos out. That's why I'm trying to drive the Nerd Club as much as I can, but for the time being, while I'm working, that's just going to happen. But looking overall, looks like we've had about 15 videos or so in the last 6 months, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. It's better than 2017, once again. Bash Basics was a series that I'm definitely going to continue, that beginner Linux command line series. That got a really positive response. And the thing with those is, especially once we get into more complicated topics, making them sound and look really simple gets to be more work. And with the last couple of Bash Basics videos, I actually had to do quite a bit of editing around mistakes that I made, which turned into quite tedious projects. So it takes more planning than you'd think for those Linux command line videos. Because a GUI, if you mess something up, also, when we're making a tutorial on the GUI, if I mess something up, I can just drag everything back to the way it was before and act like it didn't happen, right? And then we can pick back up from that point. With command line videos, if I make a typo in a command line video and I press enter, now that typo's in my history. So I have to clear the screen, redo everything up until that point, and then act like it didn't happen when it's actually been 5 minutes while I've been redoing all of those commands. So yeah, those can get very tedious. And there's also the option of like not cutting out typos, but that's not as good production value. So, but yeah, I'm definitely going to do more of the Bash Basics videos. Yeah, anytime I do like how to install a Linux distribution these days, those are pretty much just sort of reaching out there for bringing in new viewers, because I know most of my most of my viewers know how to install Linux. Getting parched here, talking by myself. Like I said, anyone has questions or anything, feel free to speak up in the chat. Yeah, the Steam Play with Proton video from last year, late 2018, that was definitely a very good one to make. Got a ton of views on YouTube and a ton of comments too, which was really fun to read all of those. Yeah, and then I guess shout out to Fine Microphones. So last year I talked about during year 6 of Nerd on the Street, I got sent my first 2 free products, and they were an Orco hard drive dock, which I already had a hard drive dock, but Orco sent me another one, so that was cool. And then BenQ sent me a 32-inch 4K monitor, which was amazing last year. So this year we didn't have quite that much coming in, but I did have a couple of free products, and they were both from the same company. It was Fine Microphones. And I never like to do sponsored videos. And if you go and watch my file run videos, that was a piece of software that was paid proprietary software, and I was given it for free to review. And after the fact, I was looking back, I actually think I was way too harsh on it in the videos. But I was sort of, I had this mentality of, okay, I've been given something for free. I need to make sure that I don't let that influence what I say about it. So then I went too far in the other direction, and I was super critical of file run, which the developer was not super happy about, but you know, they didn't place any restrictions on what I could say, so there was nothing they could really do about it. But yeah, for the Fine videos, I've been trying to find a balance. You know, on the one hand, they're cheap microphones. They're not, like I'm wearing my Audio-Technica right now. They're not going to match up with that. But on the other hand, they are free products, and especially for Extra Life, when we've got you know, 10 or 12 people in the same room and all of them need microphones, we can use all the microphones we can get. So that's the reason that I do accept some of those things. I had a VPN company contact me in the last month or two. What was it? Was it Proton VPN? Yeah, it was Proton VPN, I think. And they contacted me asking if I wanted to start making, well, they didn't ask me to make a video about them. That was the thing. I'll usually say yes to making a single video about something. But they were asking me, they wanted to do like a sponsorship thing where I did a Proton VPN ad at the beginning of every video, which, you know, Nerd Club members are paying me, so I'm not going to be giving ads to them. But I told Proton VPN that I would make a single video featuring their product. And they weren't too interested in that. But yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting one because I looked up Proton, and VPNs are something that they kind of have to do with internet privacy and everything, and I don't want that to be biased at all. So I'd rather that be a more natural thing if I do ever do a video about that. I was kind of leaning away from that one anyway. So I've got one other clip to show. Like I said, I'm open to answer questions and chat with people. Nobody's really talking too much in the chat right now. So last year I showed a video at the 6-year anniversary stream, and that video was it was a version of the Nerd on the Street intro video, the first video I ever made back in 2012. But it was a version that was older, and it never had gotten published before last year's stream. You can go back and watch the recording of last year's stream to see it. But yeah, I showed that, and that was fun to see like what Nerd on the Street might have been. This year I dug up another really old video, and this one is even older than that other one. So this video that I'm about to show you in a couple minutes here, it predates Nerd on the Street entirely. This was before I was calling anything Nerd on the Street. This was back when I had another website. I think this was during the JK the Site days. I'm not 100% on that, but I think I had one website. I had 2 websites before Nerd on the Street, and I think this is from the one immediately before Nerd on the Street that I had during middle school. So this is going to be, the video is going to be a little bit, not cringy, but it's not going to be great, but you guys will be able to see it. And this was me giving a review of my iPod Touch 2nd generation, which was one of the pieces of technology I had in middle school. One of my prized possessions that that I was given either by my parents or my grandparents for Christmas one year, I think. I had this super old iPod Touch, so you'll hear me talk about it. You'll hear me talk about the limitations of iPods at the time. Which are really funny to hear now that, you know, iPod Touches and iPhones can do all sorts of crazy stuff that they couldn't do back then. But yeah, so this video is just a super old tech video, and I actually did edit it down a little bit more to show here. I've got a screenshot of the edit here. So you can see I actually went, and when I made this, I edited it in Windows Live Movie Maker, I think. Pretty sure I was not using regular Windows Movie Maker, so it must have been Windows Live Movie Maker. It was either that or Cyberlink Power Director, but I think it was Movie Maker. So something happened where the aspect ratio of the video got messed up in that video editor. So I've got the original footage, and at first I was just intending to go and overlay the original footage over the edited version. Now there are some sections where I had put in titles in Windows Live Movie Maker, and I wanted to preserve the titles in the version I'm showing today. So I cut out the overlaid, better quality video for that part. But then as you can see, as time went on, I couldn't help myself. I ended up cutting down this video quite a bit more. I cut out another minute or two over the course of this video. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, chat's pretty quiet right now, but just in case you guys are, I know some of you have discovered me. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to answer that question since I've been hyping up this video now. I'm going to show the video, then I'll answer the question. So think of even more questions. Everyone think of questions, put them in the chat, and we'll talk about other stuff after this. But here is a really old video of very young Jacob doing a tech video. You can see the similarities to the tech videos I do today. And the nerdonthestreet.com chat will be on the screen during this, so you guys can comment on it live, just in case the video itself gets boring. People on YouTube, I couldn't fit it in OBS, so either sign up or just wait. It's about a 10-minute video, so here's this.
Hey, I'm Jacob, and you're watching Tech Time with Jacob. Well, for my first ever Tech Time segment today, I will be doing a review of the iPod Touch. Now I will take the case off. Oh! Awesome, it landed. Alright, I will take the case off now to show you. This is the iPod Touch second generation iPod Touch, and I got this Christmas of 2009. They have only released one update for the iPod Touches, and the 8GB model, which this is, was not affected. It came with the iPod Touch 2.0 software. However, I upgraded it to 3 for $10 when 3.0 came out. There are rumors online about 4.0 coming out sometime soon, so I will be doing a review on that as well when it comes out. Alright, well, the iPod Touch is a great MP3 player. I actually use this more than my Nintendo DS. It's a great gaming system. It's a great pocket computer because half the stuff I do on my computer is actually on the internet. Actually over half the stuff. And this has internet access, Wi-Fi, speed. It also has Bluetooth, and I use the alarm clock every day to get up for school. Now to unlock it, you either press, yes, here the Wi-Fi antenna is right here. This is the sleep, wake, and power button. These, because this is the 2009 model, end of 2009 model, it has the built-in speaker here. And, so it has, these are the physical up-down buttons, and then here you have the home button, which, when pressed, returns you to the home screen or wakes up from sleep. Now, if I wake up to sleep here, it shows this. Now, normally, see, this would be just a picture behind this. However, there are tons of programs you can get in the App Store, and you all know about those. How, where they actually, the developers of them have actually figured out pixel by pixel how big the home screen is, and have made it so that you can have a background that makes it look like it's supposed to be there rather than just a picture behind some writing. And you can customize your picture right there. Yeah, I just thought that was a cool picture. To wake it up so that you don't accidentally end up turning it on in your pocket. When you wake it up from sleep, you have to slide it to activate it. I set it to enter a passcode. You don't have to have that setting. I will enter the passcode now. And that's a good thing to do if, like me, you have... Oh, low battery. If you have all of your email accounts on this. Yes, if you got a hold of somebody's iPod Touch or iPhone and they didn't have a passcode on it and they used it like most people do, they would be so blackmailable. Anyway, so here you have the main home screen. Now you can have up to 11 pages of apps. I have 9. However, the last one, these are all just web bookmarks. Oh, I accidentally tapped on one. And the first one is a page of all of the apps that came built in. I just like to organize them that way for myself. The web bookmarks, you can, in the built-in Safari browser, which I have open right now. I was looking at the new iPad, which came out yesterday. Yeah, it's a great browser, Safari. You can get tons of other browsers in the App Store, but I don't see why you would need them. You can have up to 8 pages at one time. Anyway, so here you can have a bookmarks. Oops, X. Right. You can have a bookmarks library, and so you can add folders and have stuff just in the main library. If you want to add a page to the bookmark, you tap plus button, and you can add bookmark or add to home screen as a web clip. Alright, I'm not going to get too detailed into that for the sake of the length of this video. I will be doing the apps that came built in with this next time. All the apps I've downloaded the other time. Alright, if you have the 3.0 software, if you swipe to the right, you go to a place that says Search iPad. Now I can type in LE. It'll bring up everything that has LE in it. I have Labyrinth Lite, which they abbreviated Lite into LE. That's an app. Lemonade Stands, that's an app. Searches all your music. Searches all your videos. It searches your email servers. I really think that's cool. It searches all of the emails that you have, even online, because it automatically takes them to your iPod Touch or iPhone. Well, yeah, I really like this product. I especially like the Safari. I actually use Safari in apps more than I listen to the actual music capabilities of it. I have, as you can see under videos, I have a couple of video podcasts. I have a music video and a movie. I have well, let's see, how many songs do I have? I have 115 songs, and I really like, which I will go more into this on my next one, but I really like the cover flow feature. You can just go and find something, and if you go to the album you want, you tap the album, it turns around, and then you tap the song you want, it starts playing. Now this brings me to the other thing. If there's music playing on the home screen, double click the home button. You can pause and play. You can use the on-screen volume adjuster. You can go to the... and if you use the cover flow, then you can go to the albums tracks before and after that. And if you used artists, the one in the artists lists before and after that, if you use songs, any of the songs, and then if you like are at the last one of a playlist and you click next, it just stops. First one and click back, it just stops. Yes, I really like that. Yeah. I really like the calendar application. However, I wish it had something to sync with on my computer. I have Windows 7, except Windows Calendar and Windows Live Mail, which has a calendar built into it. Neither of those sync with it. Let's see. The App Store. Aside from on your computer, you can have tons of different apps on your iPod. Aside from installing them from iTunes on your computer, you can go and download thousands of them just out of battery power. That brings me to the other thing, which I will get to in a second. You can download and install all apps that are less than 10 megabytes. something like that. Maybe 50? I don't know. Most apps, I haven't ran into any that I couldn't install on here, even though some were slow. I actually downloaded like 99% of my apps that I have on this, which are a lot, off of here rather than my computer. The only ones I installed off of my computer were the ones that I got before I even got this. Yeah. Anyway, iTunes. There's also an iTunes app for the iPod that you can buy new songs, videos, and subscribe to podcasts and stuff like that on. And, again, most of the songs I have I purchased on here rather than my computer. And the only ones on my computer were the ones that I got before I got this. Now, you can actually use iTunes Music on your computer. You can listen to it on your computer and burn it to CDs without having an iPod. What the heck? My camera cut me off. You can have pretty much all of your 11 maximum home screens filled up with apps. Depending on what apps they are, if like every one is a huge app that you had to install on your computer rather than this, and it took like forever to sync, then it might differ a little bit. But I have 9 of the 11 pages of apps filled up, 115 songs, plus a movie. It still has over half of its capacity free, and the movie is probably most of it. So unless you want 5 movies installed on here at once, or not installed, unless you want to have 5 movies on here at once, which really there's no point to, you can just, I would just put one on at a time, like whenever I sync it. If I wanted to watch a different one on here, because I knew I was going someplace, I would just take the one off and put the other one on. They would all still remain on your computer, unless you want to have like multiple, like at least 3 movies on your iPod at one time, then it really 8 gigabytes is all you need. The only reason that now I would choose 16 or 32 gigabytes was because that now those with the microphone that comes with them, I actually purchased the microphone separately. The headphones with my earbuds with the microphone built in, I actually purchased that separately for $30. But the 16 and 32 now come with them because you can use the voice control, which you hold down the home button till it plays a tone and you just say something and it does it. However, they didn't have that when I was using, or when I got this. They didn't even have that on the 16 and 32, so I just went for the 8s. Let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, I'm actually really mad about how, like, now if you have a 16 or 32, they give you the voice control, but they don't with this. I am hoping that with the 4.0 iPhone OS software, which, by the way, if you ever hear me talking about that on one of these, iPhone OS also goes on here. iPhone apps or iPod Touch apps. Yeah, I'm hoping that with the iPhone OS 4.0, they will add voice control to the 8GB iPod Touches too. I would recommend the iPod Touch over the iPhone, personally, because with Wi-Fi and a microphone, you can call and text. Just get iCall for outgoing calls, Fring for incoming calls, and I use text-free unlimited for my texting, which that works great. At one point, it took 8 minutes to deliver them, but now it's fine. I am running out of space on my SD card, so signing off. This was Jacob doing a review of the iPod Touch on Tech Time with Jacob for... Hey, I'm Jacob.
Looks like it looped there, but the camera, I think the camera must have actually run out of space at that point, because I didn't get to finish my outro, and that was just the end of all the footage that I had. So yeah, there's that. We had a couple people chatting during it on YouTube. The most noticeable similarity is that I still use the same hand gestures. Yeah, I've always been good at that. And then yes, absolutely, I was gonna make a joke about the copyrighted music in there. They totally also. Yeah, so I just want to talk about a couple of the differences in technology since back then. For one thing, I talked about how you don't need any other browsers than Safari. You can have up to 8 pages at one time open in Safari. I've got my phone right here, a OnePlus 5T, and I've got Firefox on this thing. I'm on a Debian wiki page right now, and if you look at the little icon up there, That's the infinity symbol because I have more than 100 tabs open. And once you get past 99, it just switches to an infinity symbol on Firefox Mobile. So people have, at least I have, a lot more tabs open on my mobile devices these days than I guess I used to. I like that I mentioned that you could download any app under 10 megabytes on the iPod. For anything over 10 megabytes, you had to download it on your computer on iTunes and sync it over the cable back then, which was cool. 11 maximum home screens. I don't know how iOS does home screens. I don't think Android has a limit. Yeah, who needs more than 8 gigabytes worth of storage? I think most phone operating systems are about 8 gigabytes these days. But back then, 8 gigabytes was enough for anything you could do on that. It was still called iPhone OS back then. It hadn't yet been renamed to iOS, and there were still paid upgrades. You had to pay to get a software update on your iPod Touch or iPhone, which Google came along, giving out Android updates for free, and then Apple switched to that model as well. So yeah, all that's very interesting and nostalgic. One thing about the video aspect of it, like I said, I actually did edit that down quite a bit. This was the Kdenlive file that I used for this, and like I said, I was watching it, and I did make some cuts. Not all the cuts came from here. There were some cuts that I made in Windows Live Movie Maker back then, but I added so many cuts here, and even then, there were times when I felt like I was going on too long and I should have paused so that I could make a cut. You know, these days when I'm recording videos, I know the voice cadence to use so that I can easily make cuts. Whereas, yeah, back then, when I first started making videos, my first stuff that I ever did was live web shows online. And so there was no cutting, there was no editing, it was all happening live. Tech Time with Jacob, which I don't think that ever got uploaded to my website. It might have. It definitely never got uploaded to YouTube. I don't think it ever even got published. But that was during the transition where I was like, okay, let me take my web show video experience and let me transition that. And I started using video editors, very rudimentary ones, and I started making some cuts, but I hadn't yet learned like how to record to make cuts. I was still recording it as if I had to talk and get the entire story out in one take, like I'm doing with this live stream right now. But that was my mentality when I was recording that, and that's why I had so many times when I just kept kind of droning on and on. So yeah, that was fun to rediscover. I've got other old stuff that will be in future anniversary streams, and sometime I want to make a video. There's one that I didn't get time for this year. I didn't have time to make this, but maybe I'll make it for next year's anniversary stream. I'd like to make a montage of all of the failed videos that I've done for Nerd in the Street. Because in the last 7 years, there have been plenty of times when I've started recording a video and either I have to stop the recording halfway through because of some problem, or I get done recording it and then I run into issues during editing where the video just never gets uploaded. There have been a good number of videos that I've tried to make that just don't end up getting uploaded. A lot of them happened around that 2017 year of hell for Nerd on the Street, but there were some back during our good years too, and there have been some recently as well. So I'd like to do some kind of montage just showing, it doesn't have to be the entire video, but like a clip of what the video is supposed to be, of the video going well, and then showing the ending where it fizzled out, and then cutting to the next one and just showing that for the last 7 years. That'll be something I do in the future. But for now, I thought the young Jacob giving a super old iPod Touch review would be a fun one for us to take a look at. So yeah, now we can go back to the chat. We've got, we had a question just before I played that video. So, your job, what OS does your work primarily use? Windows. Like I said, let me actually change my answer. Cisco iOS is a command line operating system. That is what I primarily use at work. But my laptop, I've got a ThinkPad for work, and it does have Windows 10 on it. I don't have local admin, but they use something called Power Broker, which gives you some admin privileges. So I have installed Kwrite, I've installed Meld, I've installed Firefox, I've installed several open source programs that I use, but it is still Windows 10. And the only other, I've seen a couple people around the company with Macs. It's a huge company. So most people there are using Windows. Now the servers there are both Linux, AIX, and Windows. And AIX is a proprietary Unix-like operating system, I believe. But yeah, when I got my job at this company, I was sort of half applying for 2 jobs at once because they've got a server support team and they've got network operations is what I'm in. And the networking team just was hiring sooner than the server team was, and I was graduating college and I wanted a job, so I jumped at the networking one, and it's been it's not a bad job, but I think I would be having more fun if I was on the server team, because they do get to use Linux every day. They use Red Hat, I think, is most of the Linux stuff, and then they've also got AIX, and they do some Windows Server stuff as well, and it's all one team doing all of that. So, and their team's a lot bigger than my team is. But yeah, that's the answer to what OS I use at work. But yeah, I use Cisco iOS, and then I do run into Linux sometimes. Like my work uses Checkpoint firewalls, which run Linux. We use F5 big IP load balancers, which run Linux. So there are plenty of things that we use which run Linux, but they're not stuff that I'm like in every single day. So yeah, keep the questions rolling in, guys, because we've been at here for about an hour and 12 minutes. Yeah, Rob says daily use of Windows 10 makes you realize just how solid and reliable the Linux desktop is in 2019. Yeah, my biggest working desktop support for a year, definitely. I think my work has their Windows 10 set up okay. The updates, nothing ever gets updated desktop OS wise. Like some people are still on Windows 7. And then some people are using Windows 10. I don't have the latest version of Windows 10. I've got like 1607 or something. And I get updates, like it reboots for security updates every couple weeks, but like they don't do major feature updates. So I don't know how that's ever going to be handled at the place I'm at now. But when I was working desktop support for Windows 10, I saw a lot more of Windows 10 screwing up because that was when I had to fix it. You know, at this point, I'm not working desktop support. If my computer messes up, I take it to the help desk at my current job because it's not my job to support the computer. It's my job to support the routers, switches, firewalls, etc. But when I was working desktop support at my college for a year, that was the point when other people's computers would mess up and they would bring it to me. And that was when I really saw like that. I talked about it last year, how I really don't understand why people would choose to use Windows 10. At my current job, I'm seeing more of that that common story of, oh, it gets the job done, you know, like I don't sit down and, you know, it's not a joy to use my computer, but it's not like I'm constantly like, Windows 10 this, Windows 10 that. That kind of thing doesn't really happen. And it helps that I've got like I said, I installed Kwrite on it. And I use that for taking notes instead of Notepad. And a couple of other programs. But yeah, for the most part, it works. I try to keep my work as a whole separated out from Nerd on the Street and my personal life entirely. Like when I go to work, like that's it. And when I leave work, I stop thinking about it. So it's not like it affects me way too much. Rob says, for the past 6 months, I've been on Tumbleweed with Plasma at home. Rock solid, even though a rolling release. Yeah, rolling release is, I don't know why they've got a bad rep. I'm running Arch on both my laptop and my desktop, and they are perfectly production ready. I'm doing a production on it right now. I know we had that pulse audio thing at the beginning of this very stream, little glitch there, but that was just a matter of me not testing enough. But yeah, no, Tumbleweed. I tried out Tumbleweed for a little while. I liked it. The only thing I didn't like about it, and this is a good and bad thing, is that OpenSUSE does a similar thing to Fedora, where because it's owned by a big corporate company, they make it very, very difficult to install proprietary software. And I'm not one for proprietary software. You guys know that. But like video codecs, that's something I need because I do video editing and everything. What's another one? Like I guess Bitwig. Discord is one. Somebody in the Twitch chat earlier asked what our Discord is. Discord, I think the Discord client, it's written in Electron, so it might be open source. I don't know for sure though. But yeah, it's like stuff like that, and then less popular stuff as well, like the Rocket Chat client, Telegram. Some of that stuff is harder to install, or it's not in the official repos for OpenSUSE. And I do remember from when I used to use OpenSUSE many years ago, I remember software.opensuse.org being a great resource, like having just really good availability compared to Fedora and Ubuntu. But then compared to Arch, Arch still has more, with both the official repos and the AUR, Arch is still more all-encompassing than OpenSUSE is in terms of software availability. That's the only reason why I'm not using Tumbleweed myself right now. But yeah, I do remember Tumbleweed being pretty good. I do remember Zypper being good. Yast is definitely a great tool. I haven't used ButterFS. I'm using ZFS on my desktop for my storage pool that I talked about in a video previously. So I'm not on the ButterFS train yet. But we've got, let's see, Nickelodeon Surname asking, how long would you give Windows before it's taught in history lessons? I don't think I'm ready to make a prediction for that quite yet. You know, we talk about Year of the Linux Desktop and all that stuff. I think if something takes Windows down, it probably is going to be Mac OS before it's Linux, or it's going to be like Chrome OS before it's Userland Linux. But how long before Windows is actually gone? I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Like, you threw out some years. 2035, I think Windows is still going to be around. 2030, probably still going to be around. I don't know, like 2050, I don't know. Because Microsoft is still actively developing it. And they've got a lot of users. And if they discontinued Windows, you know, there'd be a lot of unhappy people who paid for Windows that they'd have to legally deal with. So, I'm reading the chat here. But yeah, in terms of how much longer Windows is going to be around, I've heard some people on Reddit talking about like, oh, maybe they'll redo Windows like as a desktop environment on top of Linux or something like that. But they're not doing that yet. Right now what they're doing is they're gutting Linux and putting pieces of Linux into Windows on top of Windows, such as the Ubuntu on Windows thing that I don't think I officially covered in a video, but I've looked at it on camera before. And yeah, I think that stuff is bad for open source in general because it keeps people using Windows when they otherwise might be incentivized to use Linux, but you know, they're legally free to do that, so I guess it's fine that they're doing it, but yeah, I would have to wait and see in the next, I don't know what computers are going to look like 5 years from now. They'll probably look about the same as they do right now. 50 years from now, I'll have to wait and see what computers look like, because Apple rolled back what they've been doing, right? Apple released their new Mac Pro recently, and they released a tower again, and it's a different tower. It doesn't take normal PCI slots. It takes like Apple fitted PCI cards that they sell from Apple directly, which is an interesting idea, and it's similar to how the old Mac Pros, the ones that look like the Power Mac G5, the metal ones, it's similar to how those worked when they were in support. But the new Mac Pros they're a tower. They're a little bit more locked down than towers used to be, but they are a tower again. So I'm watching, honestly, if you want to see where the future is, I'm watching very closely what Apple's doing. I don't own any Macs. I'm not planning on buying any Macs. Even though I used to really, really love Macs, I still watch what they're doing, and I try to, you know, take note of that and integrate things into my Linux workflow when appropriate. And I'm watching what they're doing with iOS as well. I think I think that's going to be more likely to see where the future's going than a Linux versus Windows debate. And then Linux and Windows will follow, whatever trends technology is going through. So let's see. Rob said a while ago, OpenSUSE now enables a non-free repo by default, which I'm opposed to that from a moral standpoint. But if it makes some things easier, like NVIDIA drivers were one thing I remember being a thing. Because last time I tried OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, I forgot I was using my Serval laptop with an NVIDIA graphics card and not my desktop here that's full AMD. That's probably why I had most of those issues. And there's a reason I bought an all AMD desktop, so that I'm running a complete free and Libre stack right now. Even my OpenCL stack is free. I'm rendering scenes, I'm rendering frames for displaced with open source OpenCL drivers from AMD. They're at that point where you can do that. There's a reason I purchased this computer, because I don't like how locked down NVIDIA was. I recognize that was not an OpenSUSE problem, that was an NVIDIA problem, right, back when it was harder. But if they're making it easier for people to use their distro, I guess that's good. And then, the Pacman repo, I remember that. I just remember when I was using OpenSUSE, I had to use app images for a lot of my less popular stuff. Telegram was one I remember, Discord, Rocket Chat client. Like, it wasn't the big stuff that like Firefox and Kdenlive were fine. Those are at that time, those were my two biggest programs that I used. But this was like the stuff that I didn't need as often. Standard Notes is another one. Standard Notes, I guess, wasn't popular enough at the time. Still might not be. That's what I use as note-taking, Standard Notes. And I love that service. I purchased a multi-year subscription to it a couple years ago. It's completely encrypted. They can't read my notes. It's all, the client's open source. Everything about it is great. I've got it on my phone and on my computers. But it wasn't available natively for OpenSUSE, so I had to natively. So I was using an app image, which takes a little bit longer to load up and just is less integrated into the whole system, doesn't get updates quite the same way. Arch, everything goes through Pacman, so the package manager, Pacman for Arch, so even when you install stuff through the AUR, it's still installed through Pacman. I just like how Arch does everything. It's just so clean when you've got all those different programs. Let's see, we got someone saying, if something brings Windows down, it'll be Microsoft. They lost mobile completely, and desktop will be limited to me, you, and gamers. Yeah, well, see, we say that. We say, oh, the only people who use Windows are gamers. But then we've got, the company I work for that's got probably hundreds of thousands of employees all using Windows. So I don't think it's quite as easy as just saying they're dying. Microsoft's dying. I mean, Microsoft is rolling back. Apple and Microsoft are both learning from their mistakes. You can see it because Apple, they made the Trash Can Mac Pro, and I made a video defending the Trash Can Mac Pro back in 2013 or 2014. Back around there, I made a video about how I thought the Trash Can Mac Pro was a great idea, and all these naysayers are not seeing into the future enough. You can go back and watch that video. I got a comment on it from David DeFranco, who's a popular YouTuber, and I freaked out. I was all excited about that when that happened. But Apple walked back that change with their new Mac Pro. It's a tower again. Microsoft, they were trying to make Windows 8 a thing. They were trying to make the Windows App Store a thing. And now they're walking that back, because I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Windows App Store, it will now support games running on the Win32 API. They will no longer have to be UWP, Universal Windows Platform apps, which makes sense because the UWP was supposed to be for developers to write one program that runs on Windows on the desktop, Windows on a tablet, and Windows on a phone. Windows on a phone is gone now. Windows on a tablet is basically just, all the good ones are using regular processors anyway, i386 or whatever, AMD 64 processors. The specific term slipping my mind, but most people using Windows ARM processors aren't buying a ton of apps anyway. So Microsoft is now allowing regular old Windows programs, traditional Windows programs, in their App Store, which was originally supposed to be for this futuristic locked down walled garden thing that they wanted to build. But they found out they couldn't, so they walked that back. So They're learning from their mistakes, and they are slowly making changes like that. That now I've talked to people. I'm in Discord rooms where people saw that. And they're like, oh, cool. Now I can buy games through the Windows Store. Before it wasn't an option for them. They had to go through Steam or other third-party things, and now the Windows Store is an option for them. And that's a way that Microsoft's going to be making revenue now. Their gamers are definitely a part of that, but just in general, they are adapting just as much as Linux is. Eggplant said, so Windows 10, as it's the last OS, you pay once and keep it. Seemingly this is where all the bloatware and ads come from. Enterprise costs a lot more and comes with less crap. Yeah, that's one thing. That's probably why Windows 10 works better. I was talking earlier about how when I did desktop support, Windows 10 sucked, but it's like it works fine where I am right now for what we're doing. The company I'm at now is big enough to have Windows 10 Enterprise. When I did desktop support, we were using Windows 10 Pro. Not Enterprise. So we had all the bloatware on it, and that was probably why it was so difficult to get certain things to work. I don't know how they're going to handle the whole pay once and keep it forever situation once everyone owns it. That's going to be that's why they're investing into other things like the App Store, and I'm thinking eventually they're going to charge for a feature update. You heard me say earlier how like Apple used to charge for iPhone OS updates, like, oh, upgrade from iPhone OS 2 to iPhone OS 3, that's $10. That's not where the market's at right now. That's not how things work right now, but they could easily return to that. It's proprietary software, so you pay what they tell you to pay or you don't get the software. Rob says, I'm all Intel now. Bought an i7 NUC and installed into a really cool... I'm going to Google that. Yeah. Oh, and he even says, Google the case. It's awesome. So, yeah, a NUC is it's like a Mac Mini, but for non-Macs. It's this really small computer. I was actually looking at one just the other day. The System 76 sells. But here's what this case looks like. Let's go back to the web. Let's go to their official page here. Looks like it's a very thermal-oriented case. It's got a lot of grooves and stuff for heat to get out of. And that's fairly large for a NUC. But, yeah. Yeah, it does look nice. They've got a picture of it sitting on an entertainment center. It looks nice enough to be out in somebody's living room. For sure. Well, neat. So that is probably running both your processor and your graphics. Intel graphics are open source. They've been part of the Linux kernel longer than AMD graphics have. So yeah, no issues there. I think I was against Intel processor-wise and still sort of am because of the whole IMI, that was what it was called. Intel, I've forgotten about this since I haven't done rolling release in a while, but it was called Intel Management Engine. That's what it was. So the Intel Management Engine was this proprietary, basically like an extra chip they put in your processor, and it has full access to everything you're doing all the time, and it's network connected, and it's proprietary. And so I had an issue with that. AMD does have a sort of counterpart to that called the PSP, Platform Security Engine, but it's not as far-reaching. And since AMD, it's interesting how those companies work, because AMD does processors and graphics. NVIDIA just does graphics. Intel is doing both now, but their graphics are more the lower-end graphics. So for a high-end desktop PC, I still think AMD is the way to go, personally. But for an integrated thing, I can absolutely see Intel being a good option. And at least you got NVIDIA out of the picture by using Intel graphics. Hello to Stelios, says greetings from Greece. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's always fun to see. Let's take a look at that's something I didn't look at the analytics earlier. We can take a look at where everyone's from, who's watching the YouTube videos at least. Let's switch this down to lifetime. So We've managed to, oh, here we go. Intel Iris Pro graphics in the latest NUCs, not for AAA gaming, but they will give you 60 FPS at medium settings on Rocket League, so pretty decent. And you have hardware video encode, decode, yeah. Yeah, I know the Iris Pro is what they use in like MacBooks, MacBook Pros now too, so they've got to be all right at least. But yeah, I'm still an AMD head just because of the Threadripper stuff. You know, they really drove up the core count. I think AMD is the reason why Intel has started offering processors with higher core counts now. It was a response to AMD doing it, and AMD did it a lot cheaper. And AMD's Vega graphics cards are still a lot cheaper than NVIDIA cards of the same power. So, so yeah, I guess I don't know. Like I said, it's complicated because it's like this triangle of Intel, NVIDIA, AMD, but they don't compete with each other in the same ways. But out of those three companies, AMD is my favorite, but I'll take Intel over NVIDIA, like I said. So let's see. Can I see where... Oh, this is interesting. So just a little statistic I found in the analytics here. Traffic source types, this is lifetime. Suggested videos is 42%. So I used to say that YouTube search was where most of our videos came from. I still kind of say that. I say most people who find our videos search for one specific thing, they watch it, then they leave. But actually more of our views have come, or this is actually by watch time. But more of our watch time has come from suggested videos than search. And that actually makes sense because when people search, I'd still be willing to bet that searches account for more views than suggested videos, because people search for a video, they skip to the part they want to watch, they watch a couple seconds that show them what they were looking for, and then they leave. That's how I browse YouTube when I'm searching for how to solve a tech problem. So suggested videos are things that YouTube is recommending because they think people will be interested in things, and then people are interested in it, so then they watch more of the video, so we get more watch time. So that actually makes sense. So let's see, I'm trying to find the map. Trying to find the map. It didn't used to be this hard to find. YouTube redid their Creator Studio backend, or I guess it's the front end, but it's the part that creators see, and it's yeah, they redid it in the last year, and I don't like the new one as much. Here we go, top countries. Let's take a look here. So over our lifetime, interesting. So most of our, oh, what is this sorted by? We're going to sort by views. And I would not have expected this result, actually. Looks like, okay, are we sorted by this now, or? I think we are. So most of our views, 25% of our views have come from the US. All right, so 25% is not as big of a percentage as I was imagining there, but you know, 590,000 views over our lifetime from the US, which is neat. You know, this is where I am, so I like seeing views from here. Our second one is India, which is not surprising based on the comments and emails and Facebook messages and Twitter messages and things I get from people in India. And they like to be vocal about it too. They're proud of being from India. And then we got UK is number 3 here. Germany is number 4. 5 is Canada. This person was from Greece. Let's see where Greece is. So Australia is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is Greece even in here? Man. New Zealand way down here with 2105, but I've got... I've been in contact recently with some people from New Zealand who are taking advantage of the Managed by NOTS paid server admin service that I've started offering. Here's Greece. Greece accounts for 0.7% of our views, and over our lifetime we've had 15,715 views from Greece. UK is where Rob is from. Ubuntu Kingdom. Yeah, because Ubuntu's from there, so it works. Nice. So yeah, UK is 5.9% or 136,000 over the lifetime. Yeah, cool. Nerd on the Street has always been a very global audience. You can see how many there are in the list here. Nice. So we've been going for about an hour and a half here. I think maybe if we can get one or two more conversation topics, then I can show the montage again, and that'll be it. Yeah, Stelios says Greece is a small country, but I appreciate viewers from anywhere, for sure. So let me take a look at my topics list. Oh, Display Season 3, I can talk about that. All right, so once again, Display Season 3 is for those of you who aren't Displaced fans and have probably forgotten about this, Display Season 3 is the Stargate Machinima fanfiction. Well, it was Machinima for the first 2 seasons. Season 3 was supposed to be animated, and it is being animated. I've talked about this in a previous video. I've gone on the record and apologized, actually, for making Display Season 3 animated. I should not have made Season 3 animated. I should have kept it Minecraft Machinimated. Sure, it wasn't as professional, but at least we were getting it done, you know? I hyped up Season 3 a lot about a year ago, and then I was not able to finish it that year. And I was dealing with both equipment constraints, which I rectified with large purchases, but I was also dealing with time constraints, which have now gotten even worse as I'm now working more hours than I used to be. Excuse me. Right, so Display Season 3, it is still being animated. I am still working on it, and my microphone is dragging down here. Livestream's falling apart. So I made a tweet a couple weeks ago that was a screenshot of the folder for one of my renders. And that render, it was like a 20-second render for Displaced, and it took a month to complete. I am to the last couple of renders, but they are doozies for sure. And so they're taking a really long time to render, even with my top-of-the-line hardware here. And for once, I'm saying that non-ironically. I actually have top-of-the-line hardware, and the renders are still taking a really long time. So Display Season 3, I've got as a topic, what did we get done during year 7? So let me think. We've gotten, well, instead of thinking, let me just pull it up here in my Displaced folder. If we look at our renders, during year 7, we've gotten, looks like over half of our, wow, we got a lot done in year 7. Oh no, this was when I copied all the folders, okay. Probably half of episode 1 of Display Season 3 we got done during year 7. And like I said, it is very, very close. I know our voice actors are getting impatient. I know our fans are getting, the fans of Displaced who are not here are getting impatient, but you know, I've got to cater to the tech audience because that's where the views are, that's where the money is, that's where the interest is. So I'm gonna cater to the tech audience. And if one day the tech videos can support me and I can still work on Displaced as a free time thing, then you know, I'd be happy with that. But yeah, I am still working on Displaced Season 3. And when my issue with it, my biggest issue right now with it is that episode 1 is going to be done here probably in the next year. I said I wasn't going to make any more promises or release dates because I missed the first one that I made. But I'm guessing that Display Season 3 episode 1 will premiere sometime before the 8-year anniversary of Nerd on the Street. However, we've been working on Display Season 3 since 2016. So that's about 3 years that we've been making one episode. And this is an 8-episode season. So that's 24 years it would take to make the full season, which is not, you know, that's just going to suck if it actually takes that long. So I've been considering either bringing it back to Minecraft for episode 2 or changing the render engine that I'm using or something to make it go much quicker than it is right now. And if I could take a month off from tech videos, that would be very helpful as well for Displaced. I want to iterate again. I am catering to the tech videos because that's where the interest is with most of my viewers. But you know, if I could just walk away from the tech videos and not make any computer videos, any Linux videos for a month, and just work on Displaced for a month, I could get a significant chunk of the remaining work done. But then the tech channel suffers, and we get less. You know, our viewers go down, people unsubscribe. We get less money rolling in, which means we've got less resources to make the next videos. So it's not something I can just switch, you know, tunnel vision on just Displaced. I tried to do that a year ago, but I didn't. Luckily I did not 100% commit to it, but I about 80% committed to cancel everything else and just get Displaced done. That's why we canceled Rolling Release, and now I'm struggling to get that show back off the ground. But that is a show that I do want to start making again. Rolling Release, our Linux news show, and yeah, a couple of other things. But now, of course, I've got even less time than I used to, so it's hard. So Eggplant asked, can you share the specs of your main PC? Absolutely. And I made a 5-video series about building this PC. But it's got, so let's see. It's got a Threadripper. Let me actually pull out the list, because otherwise I'm going to get something wrong. Here we go. So here's the list. Well, I won't put it on screen. I'm reading off the list, and then I'll also say things that I've upgraded. So it's a Threadripper 1900X, which was a low-end Threadripper, which is a high-end processor. It's a 3.8 gigahertz processor. It's 8 cores, 16 threads. And I didn't want one of the ones that were like 16 or 32 cores because the clock speed was lower. And I was coming from a 4.0 gigahertz Intel processor, so I didn't want to go down too much. But the Threadripper has been great. I can tell a noticeable difference in render time. It's definitely faster on the Threadripper rendering with the CPU, just normal videos, than my old Intel i7 was. CPU, I've got a liquid cooler from EVGA. It was just probably a low mid-tier liquid cooler. The motherboard is an X399 Taichi motherboard, which has been good for the most part. I had some issues when I first got it with Linux drivers, with the Wi-Fi. It worked, but there were some bugs in the firmware. I think those have gotten fixed from Linux kernel updates at this point because I'm not having any other issues. I upgraded the BIOS or the UEFI a couple times, but I think a Linux kernel update ended up taking care of the issues that I was having. Yeah, Stelios also has a Threadripper 1900X. Nice. It's a good processor. Definitely a very capable processor. So I started out with 32 gigs of G.Skill memory, 4 8-gig sticks. Like I said, I later added an additional 64 gigs of memory, so I've got a total of 96 now, which once again, who needs 96 gigs of RAM? Who needs more than 8 gigabytes of storage on their iPod Touch? Like, we ask these questions and then we just go and prove ourselves wrong. Because I actually ran out of RAM when I was making this. And of course, if Olive Video Editor was more, what's the word? If it was more optimized, then I would not have needed that much RAM. But definitely 96 gigs of RAM is very nice to have, especially when I've got 3 renders, a live stream, 1,000 Firefox windows, all kinds of stuff happening every day on this computer. I've got a Samsung 970 Pro M.2 SSD. It's 1 terabyte. That's one thing. Probably my next upgrade for this computer will be an additional Samsung NVMe SSD. Because the current 1 terabyte, I do have to clean it off fairly often with the videos. I've got to take videos that I've finished making and transfer them to an external hard drive. So I'll probably get either a 1 terabyte or maybe a 2 terabyte SSD and mount that as /home/Jacob/videos so that my videos are on the 2 terabyte SSD, and then everything else, documents, apps, are still on the 1 terabyte SSD. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do here sometime in the next 6 months or so. Yeah, who needs more than 96 gigs of RAM? Olive users. But hey, to be fair, like I said, Olive was rocking this 7-year montage. Kden Live, I would have had to bake a couple times. Olive, I didn't. So I just didn't see the render. And next time I will bake with Olive so that I don't need to make a 50 gigabyte swap file to render my video. But it just threw me off because Kden Live, it would always crash before you got to the point where a render was impossible. Like if you can, like I said, if you can do it in Kden Live, if you can get it to not crash, then rendering is not an issue in Kden Live. But Olive, it's too powerful for its own good in that way, I guess. Video card in this machine is, I started out, well, no. Since the start, I've had 2 video cards. One of them is a Vega 64. The other one is a Vega 56. Both of them are Asus Strix models. And I think both of them have 8 gigabytes of VRAM. The 56, if I was building this machine today, I would have just gotten 2 64s. Or I would have started with one 64 and added a second one later. I got the 56 card first, and I was using it in an eGPU box connected to my laptop before I had this desktop. And I got that right in the midst of the whole Bitcoin price drive thing for graphics cards. So I could not afford a 64 at the time. I got a 56. Later, the prices went down, so I got a 64 for less money than the 56 cost. When I got that, I got the 64 for cheaper when I built this machine, and then I threw the 56 in there as well. And then I've got a Fantex Enthoo Pro full tower case and a 1000 watt Corsair power supply, which occasionally pushes the limits of my UPS battery backup that I've got. It actually overloads the battery if I render on the CPU and the GPU at the same time. I can only do one at a time. But I think it's worth it to have the battery backup right now. Stelios asks, quick question, any good WAF reverse proxy apart from Cloudflare? So I'm going to Google WAF real quick, but if we're comparing it to Cloudflare, I'm assuming that you're talking about web application firewall. So I'm assuming you're talking about, for a website or a web application, something that will sit at the front and then handle incoming requests before they get to backend servers. I know that Nginx can do some load balancing, and I know that's part of what Cloudflare does. Now, in terms of like DDoS protection, some of that is just like recognizing when there's a threat and cutting off certain sources, and some of that might be proprietary to Cloudflare. But I know the reason I kind of know that Nginx can do some load balancing is because F5, who makes the big IP load balancers that I deal with at work, I saw on r/Linux a while back when that company bought Nginx, which is an open source sort of web server, but it does a lot of other stuff too that I've been aware of for quite a while. So that's an option. You can set that up. I mean, are you setting up like your own? I don't know. I know like Linode and DigitalOcean both have their own load balancing solutions. So you might look into those and use those maybe with Nginx, or I don't know how much Apache can do in terms of load balancing. I don't use Nginx a ton myself. I prefer Apache. But then again, I don't do a lot of load balancing. So yeah, I'd have to look into that some more, because my only thing with Cloudflare is that I avoid it actively. I avoid Cloudflare actively because I discovered years ago that Cloudflare makes it very difficult to hide who you are on the internet. And I don't know what analytics they're keeping, but I do know if you connect to the internet through Tor, it's basically impossible to go to a website that uses Cloudflare. You just cannot go to that website. And for that reason, I will never use Cloudflare for Nerd on the Street. I'll never use Cloudflare specifically. Now, if we grow big enough, I might look into alternative solutions, such as Linode's offering, or setting up my own with an Nginx instance or something like that. But yeah, I want the internet to be as open and safe as possible for as many people as possible. So I am morally opposed to Cloudflare. Stelios has been having trouble setting up an Nginx status page. Nginx status page. This is the problem with doing live streams where we're talking about tech, is that there's stuff that I don't always know about off the top of my head. So if this is just some kind of status page, I can probably make a video about that, honestly. Nginx status page can give real-time data about Nginx's health. Yeah. I'll probably be making a couple videos about Nginx sometime soon. My list is growing quite large, which I like, because I like having, I'd rather have a lot of video ideas than not have any video ideas. But I've had several people asking, like I used Apache in my Nextcloud install, and I had someone comment asking if I can do the same video, but showing it on Nginx. And you know, on the one hand, I do prefer Apache, and I don't think Apache is going away anytime soon. I've seen some people on Reddit and stuff saying, oh, Apache's so outdated, it's irrelevant. I completely disagree with that. It's a very capable web server. But I know Nginx is very popular as well, so I'll probably be doing some videos about that. I really want to do a video. You said status page, it reminded me. I want to do a video about Fedora Cockpit. That's their like web interface for managing servers that's similar to the Windows server manager, but it's for Linux servers. So that's another status-ish. I know that's not what you asked about at all, but you reminded me about it. But yeah. Yeah, I recently, I'm a certified Linux administrator from LPIC. I've got my LPIC 1 certification. So I've been watching some videos online for the LPIC 2, and I'm not planning on taking the test anytime soon for the LPIC 2, but I did watch a couple videos about Linux monitoring that I hadn't gotten too far into that topic before, and I watched some videos about Nagios and other solutions for visual monitoring of Linux servers. And yeah, I think that stuff is pretty interesting, and I'm planning to implement some of that for myself. And when I implement it for myself, then that makes it very easy for me to make videos about it, because then I know what I'm doing when I go to record. Debian 10, is it Debian version 10? The next version of Debian will be released, I think, July 6th or 7th. Debian 10, yeah, it's Debian 10 named Buster, and that will be released on, let me see. Released on, or planned release is July 6th. So yeah, after Debian 10 is out, the Nerd on the Street web server is on Debian, so I'll be rebuilding our web server on Debian 10. And I'll be changing some things about how we implement SSL, because right now we don't have manual renewal of all of the certificates. It's the problem one is the wildcard SSL certificate for NOTS.co, the link shortener. Since it's a wildcard cert, it has to be verified via DNS, and I don't have that automated right now. It will be automated after I do the server rebuild next month, though. And yeah, so I'll probably be doing some monitoring on that. Probably will not be using Nginx for the Nerd on the Street server, but I can still look at it for videos. Okay, well, this has been a lot of really good topics. A lot of good stuff to talk about. I think I'm going to play our montage video one more time. I know we've got at least one more viewer than we did earlier. And then if anyone else has other... Oh, here we go. If anyone has other questions or conversation topics during or after the montage video, then we can certainly talk about this as well. Before we do the montage, Eggplant asked, do you think in the future there will be a cloud tax, i.e. your ISP will charge you to access high bandwidth websites like YouTube, Spotify, etc.? He says Chicago has this, apparently. All right, so there's several pieces of this question here. So you said the word cloud tax, but then you say your ISP is charging you. So that's not, so if it's a tax, it would be the government doing it, which anything's possible depending on who wins the 2020 election. But as of right now, that's not going to happen with the current administration. For ISPs charging you, that gets into net neutrality, if I'm understanding your question properly, because net neutrality kind of says you can't do that they can charge you based on bandwidth. And I've got Charter internet right now, Charter Spectrum. We call it Charter in St. Louis because we had it before it was called Spectrum. But when they bought Time Warner, there was something in their contract where they weren't allowed to have data caps for a couple of years. And that expires in the next year or two. So I'm hoping that Charter doesn't add data caps. I know AT&T has data caps for all of their plans except the gigabit one for the new fiber internet that AT&T is rolling out in St. Louis at least. My biggest concern, is data caps. In terms of a cloud tax, like I said, I'm just trying to analyze your question here. Your ISP will charge you to access high bandwidth. So are we counting it based on bandwidth, are we counting it based on the speed you're accessing it at, or are we counting it based on the total amount over time that you've accumulated? Either way, I don't think so. I talked about net neutrality, and I know people freak out about it. And I very well may eat my words, in a few years if things change. But personally, net neutrality is not something I ever got super concerned about. I'm not against it. And I understand that the Free Software Foundation is very pro net neutrality. The EFF is very pro net neutrality. If you go and watch my first video I ever made about net neutrality, it was just blatantly anti-net neutrality. And then over time, I kind of saw some of the arguments for it. And during Nerd of the Street News in the 2015 era of Nerd of the Street, I covered when net neutrality was being pushed through the first time. And so you heard my reaction to that. And yeah, so I don't get super concerned about it. If ISPs, we're very, in the free software community, we're battling a lot of corporations right now. We got Microsoft, Apple, the OS makers. We're trying to win over the application developers to write stuff for our operating systems. ISPs is just yet another angle, to focus our attention on. And that's not an angle that I normally focus my attention on. But we'll see what happens. So yeah, sorry if that's not the answer you were expecting, because like I said, I know some free software advocates are also very, very for net neutrality. But even though they complement each other, they're not tied, they're not married together. You can have free software. I mean, free software has nothing to do with networking. So, and I work in networking, so I know how that works to a certain extent. And it would be very difficult for them to try and do some of that stuff that people get concerned about. Okay, so we'll play the montage one more time, and then after that, if anyone else has any topics, we can hang out for a little while longer. So like I said earlier, this is, for those of you who weren't tuned in, the 7-year montage for Nerd on the Street. This is a montage of the videos from the past 3 years since our 4-year anniversary, which is basically my college years. I know that I didn't get as many good videos out during this time as I did before, but I really wanted to focus on the positives of this last 3 years. So I made a montage of just the cool stuff I've done over the last 3 years. It's actually every single video that I've published over the last 3 years are included in this. So yeah, here is the montage. And hopefully, I see Beastone Extreme popping into the chat. So yeah, those of you who didn't see it the first time, here you go. Hope you enjoy.
Now, I don't make these update videos very often, so I do want to talk about the future of Nerd on the Street, because like I said, I am graduating. In the fall, I will be going to college. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know who my roommate is going to be, because I'll be living in a dorm. I don't know how many friends I'm going to make. I don't know, what my schedule's going to be like. So I'm going to keep Nerd on the Street running, and I may upload content on a regular basis. I may upload content on an irregular basis, and that really just depends on, like I said, what my schedule ends up being, what my lifestyle ends up being like when I get to college, because, once again, I have no idea.
All right, so there's that again. One thing I didn't mention earlier, the song for that, I'll probably upload that to SoundCloud, like I do for most of my other non-displaced songs. Yeah, so those of you who weren't there earlier, hopefully you enjoyed that. Like I said, if anyone has any last topics to talk about, Beastone Extreme said just before we started that Microsoft is on the board of the Linux Foundation. Yeah, I'm less concerned about the Linux Foundation, more concerned about the Free Software Foundation myself, but I know the Linux Foundation has a lot of control over the kernel that we, well, not even necessarily control, but a lot of influence over the kernel that we use right now. Yeah, Stelios says if they're going to implement any sort of data charges, it's going to be over, see, you say bandwidth as a total amount, but the word bandwidth really, that has to do with like right now, how fast is this going, or how much can this link support at any given point in time. Bandwidth isn't the word for total amount, but I know what you're saying. It's hard to talk about even with the terminology, and that's part of why I think it's probably not ever gonna, or at least not in the foreseeable future, going to be a big issue. But we'll see. Like I said, I could very well be wrong. So yeah, this has been 7 years of Nerd on the Street. I don't have any merchandise this year. You can see I'm wearing right now the Nerd on the Street 5-year anniversary shirt that I had made. I was thinking about making another, I'll make another Nerd on the Street t-shirt or Nerd on the Street poster or something, probably within the next year, because I don't sell very much merchandise. The only thing on our store at nerdonthestreet.com is displaced DVDs. We've sold 0 of those, although I've given away quite a few to interested people. But yeah. Remember, if you guys like the videos, I know Beastone and Rob in the chat are Nerd Club members, and I want to thank you guys so much for your continued support. I know the videos slow down sometimes, and sometimes we make a lot of really good videos. But the fact that you're supporting Nerd on the Street, it means so much to me. And it really is I think it says something about your support of free software in general, as well as my content in particular. Because, yeah, right now, the majority of popular people on the internet are making most of their money from ad revenue and other things that are, as a whole, not good for society. But what you're doing, supporting the Nerd Club, is, as a whole, good for society. We're making videos about freedom-respecting software, and we're helping people discover and use freedom-respecting software. Yeah, and we're doing it in a way where people can pay for it voluntarily, and you are helping that business model slowly succeed. So thank you so much. Eggplant asked, am I muting myself when I cough, or is there something else fancy going on? No, I'm muting myself. I'm clicking mute. I forgot to earlier once and then said oops after it. You learn a thing or two after streaming for so long, and that's one of the things I've at least learned how to do is how to mute myself when I'm coughing. My microphone is turning my t-shirt into a v-neck here. I still don't know how to wear a lavalier microphone with a t-shirt properly, and I should have thought about that before purchasing one, but it sounds pretty good, I think, at least, when it's not glitching out and making my voice super deep. So yeah, for those of you who aren't in the Nerd Club, nerdclub.nots.co is where you can go if you do want to join that. We've been at this for 7 years. We're going to keep going at it until, I mean, not until anything. We're going to keep going at it as long as we can. But nerdclub.nots.co, you can support this content, make it easier for me to make more videos, have more resources to do that. Yeah, because even though right now I am working full-time at a network operations center to support myself, you know, we could do a lot more for Nerd on the Street than what we're doing right now. Like, I could be making a lot more videos. I can't right now, but I could be with the proper resources, making a lot more videos and a lot of really good content. I've got a lot of crazy ideas for stuff, some stuff that I'm not even attempting right now because I know that I don't have the resources to pull it off properly. So yeah, I appreciate you guys' support a ton. And thank you guys for showing up today. Live streams are always more fun when people show up and chat, so I enjoyed that. Yeah, nerdonthestreet.com. I know most of our viewers here were on YouTube, but you can watch on YouTube, you can watch on nerdonthestreet.com. That's about everything I had to show you guys today. 7 years, I can't believe it. Oh, just one last thing I'll show was a picture that I made, and I shared this on social media. It's nothing groundbreaking, but this was just I had fun getting all the thumbnails and everything from some past videos and arranging them. We really have made a ton of content, just a ton of it. And most of it's been pretty good. So yeah, thanks for showing up, guys. We'll go ahead and end it here. You guys all know where to find me and where to chat and everything. So yeah, here is to the next few years. Stay tuned for more videos. Thanks again for showing up. I'm Jacob Kaufman. I'm the Nerd on the Street. See you later, everyone.